Bonjour, moi je suis Claude.
Et moi c'est Cécile.
Nous sommes les profs du Terranova de français. On vous envoie un gros bonjour pour toute l'audience de Pregunta-T.
Podcast du Colegio Internacional Terranova.
Merci.
Hola, bienvenidos a otro episodio de Pregunta-T. Hoy estoy muy emocionada de tenerlos aquí nuevamente, un episodio más. Ya vamos por nuestro cuarto o quinto episodio, si no me equivoco. Estoy muy contenta de cómo ha avanzado este proyecto porque sé que a la audiencia le ha encantado cómo hemos estado trabajando. A mí personalmente me ha encantado cómo pues, se ha ido fluyendo este proyecto junto con mi equipo, que es sin duda parte esencial para que esto salga como debe de salir. El día de hoy estoy muy contenta porque vamos a tratar un tema increíble, un tema muy interesante que creo que no muchas personas se cuestionan, y es básicamente cómo la lengua o el lenguaje está relacionado con el conocimiento. Creo que es algo muy interesante y hoy es un episodio especial. Hoy va a tener un toque diferente. Les voy a contar que pues voy a cambiar de idioma. Hoy no va a ser el episodio en español como normalmente lo es, hoy va a ser en inglés, porque las panelistas que tengo el día de hoy, que ahorita se van a presentar con ustedes, son, vienen de otra parte del mundo, vienen de Estados Unidos. Entonces pues bueno, se sienten mucho más cómodas hablando en inglés, y yo la verdad que no tengo un problema en hablar en inglés tampoco. Entonces pues bueno, creo que fue una buena decisión, ¿no? Hacer este episodio en inglés. Así que vamos ahorita a hacer el switch del idioma para que ustedes también en casita estén preparados. Pero antes les quiero pues dar los anuncios de Acuérdate. Entonces, la verdad es que estoy muy contenta porque viene un café filosófico. Les voy a invitar a un café filosófico que se viene pronto, que es acerca de educación sexual. Creo que es un tema muy, muy interesante, que también en redes sociales pueden enviarnos comentarios, preguntas para el café filosófico. Seguramente por Algebraics les va a estar llegando la invitación para que no falten los alumnos de prepa. También las Terraolimpiadas ya se acercan. Yo la verdad que si algo extraño de secundaria son las Terraolimpiadas. Hoy déjenme decirles que atrás de cámaras, ustedes no lo ven, pero yo tengo un público como de 40 personas. Me siento muy observada, pero vienen justo gente de secundaria. Entonces pues si ya se vienen las Terraolimpiadas, para que también estén listos y que gane pues el mejor. Ahí estaremos echándoles porras. Y también, para cuando yo esté grabando este episodio, el día que se sube este episodio va a ser el Mardi Gras, que es un proyecto que tenemos con francés, que la verdad estamos muy emocionados por eso. Lo estamos planeando con mucho cariño, con mucho entusiasmo, y pues bueno, va a ser un evento muy muy padre al que le estamos poniendo mucho corazón. Entonces, ahora sí, vamos a cambiar de idioma. La presentación del tema pues es lengua y conocimiento, o mejor dicho, language and knowledge. So I'm going to give you the official welcome to the podcast. How are you guys? Good. How do you feel to be here in Pregunta-T, the podcast of Terranova? Nervous? Yeah. So I want to introduce yourself, please. Tell the audience your names, where do you come from, your school.
Okay. I'm Charlie Bouchard. I also go to that school, but I live in Utah. So
Utah. Okay. Jess?
I'm Jessica, and I come from Alabama.
And you have already been in Terranova like this whole year, right? You have been here one semester. And what do you think about Mexico, guys? It's cool? Yeah? Have you eaten tacos already? Yeah, of course. You, yes? Of course, right? Okay, so basically the dynamic of the podcast is like I'm going to give you some questions related to the topic that is language and knowledge. And I think you already have answered like some questions, or you have idea how to answer the questions. So I'm going to give you these questions and share them to the audience, so you can have like a debate or a kind of discussion. So I'm going to start with the first one. How much do you agree with the following statement? The limits of my language mean the limits of my world.
I mean, personally, I feel like my life would have been like really different if I didn't speak Spanish. Like, it's been a really big part of my life. It's allowed me to communicate with my family members that have origins in Colombia. And without Spanish, like my non-English speaking family members wouldn't have been able to communicate with me. Okay. Like, I wouldn't be able to talk with them or anything. They wouldn't understand me, I would understand them. Okay. And I would also just lose touch with the culture as well.
Well, where we come from, there's a big Navajo population.
Okay.
And it's a culture and a language that's not really well known.
Okay.
But we grew up going to Navajo schools, so we grew up learning about the language and about the culture, and it has really widened our understanding of the world.
Okay.
different from other people we see. So.
If you know more languages, you definitely know like more about the world because it's composed of a lot of different cultures and languages.
Okay.
I don't know. If you know more, you just get exposed to more, and then your knowledge gets bigger.
Okay. So we're going to talk about after about identity because yes, you told us that your parents are from Colombia, so you have this Latin culture also, right? What can you tell us about it to have that mixed cultures?
I mean, when I first came here, I often got asked about like American culture, but really growing up, I kind of went more with like Colombian culture.
Okay.
So like my parents never let me be like a full American, I guess.
Okay. and how do you feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any like cultural shock?
I mean, it's really nice, especially I feel like it kind of like softened the impact of coming to Mexico because it reminded me of Colombia a little bit.
Okay. And how different is Mexico from Colombia? Do we have any difference? I think like we are very similar. I don't know why.
It's similar but different.
Okay.
And like some of the words aren't the same, so
Okay.
get a little mixed up sometimes.
And you guys, how do you feel like the cultural shock? Have you experienced a cultural shock being here in Mexico?
Yeah, it's definitely different. Like where we're from, we're already in like a different culture, like the Navajo culture, and that's just what we grew up around and what we go to every day. And then coming here is just like a different culture.
A different culture. Okay. And you? What do you think?
So growing up, I was used to being exposed to a bunch of different cultures, like growing up on near the Navajo Nation.
Okay.
And then my family traveled a lot. Like we spent a month in Thailand when I was younger.
Wow. Okay.
And now the month here, it's just, for me, it's easier to like get involved in another culture. So I don't necessarily experience culture shock, but I always love to like learn more about other languages, and then it opens my understanding of the world and the people.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Great answers. Okay, so the next question is, how does language affect knowledge?
Do you think that's relatable? Do you think they relate language and knowledge?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Like,
Okay.
without language, you can't really
Yeah.
communicate with
But
people.
how does, for example, learning with another language affect how you perceive knowledge or how you absorb knowledge?
I mean, some studies have been showed that a new language can actually change how the human mind pulls information together. So, like, if you learn a new language, you can just open your mind more, and it improves the way that your brain thinks.
Do you agree with yes?
Yeah.
Yeah? Do you think, like, they are really, like, language and knowledge are relatable because if you, like, learn another language, your brain works even better. Like,
Yeah.
why your
Like-
perspective also cultural.
Yeah, learning Navajo and Spanish at the same time, you can see some things like match up, and then
Okay.
it's definitely like more useful.
Okay. To move to the third question, that is, to what extent does knowing a language different from yours allow you to have a different perspective?
When knowing like a different language and a whole new culture, you can have a lot more insight on the world
Okay.
and understand things more. And like it's not your culture isn't the only one in the world, and it's composed of a lot of different ones.
Okay. You?
Yeah, knowing different languages and cultures definitely like opened your mind to new ideas and things for when you travel more. Like it's just easier. It makes you more open-minded and more accepting.
Yes? What do you think?
I kind of just agree with both of them said, but also, like, it really changes your perspective in the way that, like, people can treat you differently as well.
Okay.
As someone that, like, would only speak one language.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, great. So basically, I want you now to tell the audience about your culture and about your identity. So I'm going to go to the fourth question, that is, how does your native language create your identity? As we know, language is part of our culture, of course, but how does this create our identity?
Yes.
So I only speak English, but
Okay.
I like know know more Navajo and a little bit of Spanish. Like, not much, but a little.
Okay.
But speaking English is definitely, like, important for me. Well, because it's, like, more known, you know, so when we travel, we can always at least find somebody that knows English.
Great. Yes, what do you think?
I feel like it affects like every single aspect of your life almost, like how you think, even like your accent,
Okay.
and like how you communicate with others, your social relationships, like even academic success, like it can affect really all of you.
So I'm going to continue with another question. We're going to make 2 more questions about language and knowledge. And the next question is, which benefits do you consider they are from learning different languages?
A little bit of Spanish before coming here definitely helped because, I don't know, you could get the context of conversations and what people are talking about. Like, if we knew no Spanish before coming here, we'd be completely lost. But, like, just with the little bit we know, it's, like, helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, like, I definitely understand more Spanish than I speak. Because
Okay.
I'm kind of scared to speak Spanish, especially.
Okay, now I understand why you don't want to talk in Spanish. But why do you feel like with this fear of talking another language?
Well, I don't know. Like, I understand when other people are talking it, and like I
Okay.
get it. But then when I go to speak it, I forget everything. So I kind of just don't.
So you consider Spanish like a difficult language?
Not really.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We're just like, if we speak it, we're scared of saying something wrong.
Okay. Okay. What do you think? Yes.
I agree with
I agree. But which benefits do you have like learn or get from you to knowing like these 2 languages really well? For example, Spanish and English.
I mean, again, like just communication.
It's
like
the
you
base
can-
of everything.
Yeah.
Like, the language. Okay.
So for having like a more like casual conversation, I want you to talk to the audience and share with me like your culture, where you come from, and talk about your traditions, the food you eat there, the places you can go. Like, if I tell you I'm going to Navajo, what can I do? What can I eat in Navajo?
So, in America,
Okay.
the 4 states, like the 4 corners,
Okay.
Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona.
Okay.
In mainly Arizona and New Mexico, that's where the Navajo Nation is, and it's a small area where all the Navajos live. But we grew up we grew up going to school on the Navajo Nation and learning about the culture through, like, I don't know about you, but I've been to a lot of Navajo ceremonies and been like involved in a lot of traditions through my friends' family and everything. I live in the corner of Utah, and a few minutes away from where I live, I live close to a lot of big landmarks.
Okay.
You guys could know them from the Cars movie. I live there. And Forrest Gump Hill, I live like 30 minutes from that.
Wow.
So where I'm from is really well known from the landscapes, but the culture and the people are more forgotten. Like, a lot of people don't know about the Navajo Nation and how it is there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow. And you? What do you?
So yeah, what she said about the Navajo Nation, there's also parts of it in Oklahoma, and Native Americans, live throughout the U.S., but most of their population is based there. And where I grew up in Shiprock, New Mexico, we're like one of the only white families there, and where I went to school, I was the only white kid there. So it was very different. Like, if you go to that school in the first place and you've never been to any other school, it's like, it's your normal. Like, it's not different or anything. You're just used to just being in that situation. So when coming here, it was exactly the same. Like, there was no really, like, culture shock or anything, because that's just how we grew up.
Okay.
And yeah, like, Navajo culture is like, it's like it's not our culture, but it's just we grew up in it and everything. So
You feel really identified with that culture.
Yeah,
basically,
all
because-
our friends are Navajo. Like, it's just like kind of what my life revolves around. And I have a bunch of Navajo grandmas and everything. And we have a lot of traditional foods and participate in a lot of their traditions. And yeah.
And I want to ask you guys, how is the social life in Navajo? Like, you go to parties, how's the party? Because I think you have gone parties here in Mexico.
Yeah.
And how they are different. Like, what difference can you, like, identify?
So
You're
like,
very crazy here? Kind of.
it's not like, okay, you know, in high school movies, like when people go to parties, it's definitely not how
Not
it
that.
is.
Okay,
Like, and
okay.
especially our school, we can't really have parties because it's a boarding school, so everyone's from like all over the Navajo Nation,
Okay.
and you can't leave campus and everything.
And it's a residential school. So
okay.
Opal is a day student, so she goes home because she only lives 30 minutes from school. But I live 2 hours from my school. It's in a whole different state. So I live at my school all week. I come on Sundays and then leave on Fridays to go home. So we're not necessarily allowed to like leave the campus.
Okay.
So we can't really do much.
Okay. So,
But
when we turn off the camera, you can tell me your secrets of how you party in your camera.
in the doors.
Yeah. And yes, please tell me about Colombian culture and your Alabama culture, of course. I want to learn from both.
I mean, as they said before, American culture is like,
Kinda.
I don't know.
It's not really a thing.
It's not really, yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, America's kind of known as like the great melting pot. Like, there's like a variety of different cultures.
Yeah.
So where I live in Alabama, or where I lived, it's kind of like a small town, kind of
Okay.
like American football fans. Like, it's a really big music city, actually. It's known as like the hit recording capital of the world or something like that. It's like 4 small cities, and they call them the Shoals. And so I'm part of one of those cities. And I guess,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's
And the
weird.
Colombian culture, it's
Colombian
really,
culture.
it's kind of similar to Mexico. But for example, I have like a big point of view of the Colombian culture because of Encanto, the movie, the Disney movie. Am I right? Well, the movie is right in the like Colombian expressions and food and what they show in that movie. It's kind of similar. Yeah, and it's all about like music and dance. I don't know why I relate Colombia with that, like a lot of party and yeah.
It's really nice. The culture
It's
is
really
really
nice.
nice.
And your parents for what Colombian city they are like?
They come from Bucaramanga.
Bucaramanga. Wow. I love it. Okay, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing this personal like stuff. I really enjoy of listening to these stories and learn from you also because I don't know you like that much. You're spending here in Mexico 5 weeks, right? And how much time do you have left here in Mexico?
Leave in a week.
In a week.
Last week
I'll be
is
last.
our last week.
And you miss your school, you miss your normal routine, or you like?
Not really.
Not really.
No, I'm kidding. I wish we could stay longer,
Okay.
but
You have to leave.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. So, what do you miss from your place? Do you miss your friends, your family,
The like traditional foods we had, they're really
the
good.
traditional foods?
Yeah.
Do you miss your food?
yeah, I'm really craving like a mutton sandwich.
Okay. And you, yes, do you miss something of Alabama?
Definitely, like, just the music. Like,
The music.
concerts were really easy to go to there, and I'm a really big music fan. And
Yeah,
also
I
just,
know
like,
that.
my friends.
Your friends, of course, yeah. Okay, so for closing this podcast, this episode, I want you guys to share like a whole idea of what you get from this episode of language and knowledge. To close like with a strong idea, with a strong sentence. So what do you think about this episode? How do you feel of being here? What you learn? All that stuff.
I don't know. I feel like the more languages and cultures you know, obviously, like, the more, like, you broaden your horizon and you have more insight on the world and
Okay.
what it's composed of. Yeah.
Okay. The last idea? The last thing you want to say?
Just that language is definitely important for
Okay.
cultures and like understanding different things, but yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I mean, like, no matter what language you speak, I guess, like, we're all in it together.
Okay, yeah. That's great. That's a great idea.
So thank you for being here, guys. I know that it's kind of a different thing of what you are used to do, but I'm really glad that you agree of making this episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you. So I'm going to change to my normal language. Okay. So ya volví. Hola, mi español. Ay, lo extrañé tanto. Muchas gracias audiencia por estar aquí. Este episodio espero les haya gustado mucho. Me gustó mucho compartir con mis compañeras que vienen pues de otras partes del mundo, que nos vinieron a compartir pues sus experiencias personales, de dónde vienen, su cultura, su lengua, su comida, sus ideas. Muchas gracias audiencia por estar en este episodio. Nos vemos en el siguiente, esperando les haya gustado mucho. Por favor, interactúen en redes sociales, déjenos sus comentarios en Instagram, en YouTube, escúchenos en Spotify, compártanos. Muchas gracias a mi equipo, a mi bella producción. Thank you guys.